So, I'm gonna start this video off with something rare and make a statement that pretty much every Pokemon fan can agree on. Regional variant Pokemon are really cool. They were of course introduced in Generation 7, and since then have been introduced in every new region and pretty much every new game we have gotten since, which is a monumental feat for Pokemon mechanics these days. However, despite its massive popularity, and given its relatively new nature, we have only ever seen regional variants appear in a couple of different regions: Alola, Galar, Paldea, and Hisui in Pokemon Legends Arceus. What would it be like if the other older Pokemon regions had regional variants though? This is something that the games really haven't had the chance to explore yet, with the exception of Hisuian forms coming from Hisui, which of course later becomes Sinnoh, but nevertheless, there is so much potential for this concept, which is why we are going to be looking at this idea in today's video and seeing what it could be like if all of the other older Pokemon regions that don't have any regional variants of their own actually had some regional variants of their own. This is going to be a super fun one, so let's go ahead and get into it. As always, fun Fakemon videos like this would not be possible without the help of sponsors, like today's amazing sponsor, Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. These boxes have got you covered when it comes to Japanese treats, bringing you authentic Japanese snacks that come straight from Japan. The Tokyo Treat box covers the modern, trendy treats, and Sakura Co gives you the traditional, more cultural Japanese experience. It's so cultural, in fact, that it even comes with a piece of authentic tableware to put your snacks in, which is pretty neat. The themes for this month's boxes are Akiba Adventure for Tokyo Treat and Colors of Koyo for Sakura Co, and they're both chock full of yummy fall treats, like the Kit Kats, which are always a treat, and this month are chestnut flavored. And also there's these Gudetama custard snacks, which I am now hopelessly addicted to. If you would like to get a box of these delicious treats for yourself, you can use the links in my description along with the code HOOPS to get $5 off your first box, and each purchase also directly supports the channel as well. They also have a Halloween giveaway going on through October 31st, which you can also check out and enter with the links in the description as well. And once again, a big thank you to Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co for supporting the channel and making videos like this one possible. Okay, so kicking things off here, we are naturally going to be starting with Generation 1, and when it comes to what regional variants could inhabit the Kanto region, there are a lot of interesting possibilities, as there are for all of the regions. However, the one I decided to showcase here is Kantonian Beware. Given that Alola was the first region to have regional variants, and all of Alola's regional variants are comprised of Kanto Pokemon, I thought it was only fitting that an Alola Pokemon get the chance to be a Kantonian form as well, because in addition to that connection, these two regions are also just really closely tied together in general. Beware itself is also a pretty significant Alola Pokemon as well, so I think it would be a prime candidate if you were looking at Alola Pokemon to get regional variants, and when it comes to this particular rendition, it goes from a normal fighting type in its Alolan form to a normal fairy type in its Kantonian form. And unlike the Beware of Alola that are extremely dangerous and aggressive, the Beware that have made their way to Kanto have adapted to become a lot less aggressive and way more loving, and overall take on a lot more of a focus on their stuffed animal inspiration that both the original Beware as well as its pre-evolution Stuffle have. This is the reason for the more cuddly appearance that Kantonian Beware has, as well as it swapping the fighting type for the fairy type. Is Kantonian Beware something that you would like to see and use during one of your adventures in the Kanto region? Be sure to let me know in the comments below as we move forward to the Johto region. Really quick before we get into Johto's regional variant, I just wanted to mention really quick that all of the artwork in this video was drawn by my good friend Oscar Belmonte. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the video, but he obviously does amazing work and will be linked in the description, so be sure you check him out. When it comes to our Johtoan form Pokemon though, I have once again pulled from the Alola region because what we've got here is none other than Johtoan Rockruff. Johtoan Rockruff is a pure Ghost-type Pokemon, and honestly, I need this thing to be real because it turned out beautifully. The reason why Rockruff has turned into a Ghost-type in Johto, though, is because it is inspired by the story of Hachiko. Now, you may have heard this before, I've even mentioned it in videos in the past, but Hachiko is a very, very famous dog in Japanese history that very famously continued to wait at the local train station for its owner to return from work, even years after its owner had unfortunately passed away. This unwavering loyalty to its owner made Hachiko absolutely beloved in Japan, and I think it only makes sense for a Pokemon to be based on such a famous story, and in a very traditional Japanese-based region like Johto, I think it would be a great fit, and I feel like Rockruff is a great fit as well to take on this inspiration. Another reason was because I needed to look to the newer, non-Japanese based Pokemon regions for the regional variants of the Japan-based regions, for obvious reasons. Wow, that was a tongue twister, and I'm glad I did because, oh my gosh, Johtoan Rockruff just turned out absolutely fantastic, and is a prime example, in my opinion, of why the regional variant concept needs to be explored in older regions. Now we're going to look at Hoenn, and just like Johto, Hoenn is also a Japanese-based region, so I decided to look at the newer non-Japanese-based regions for potential candidates here, as Pokemon from those regions are not only farther away from the Japan ones, but are also the Pokemon that are most likely going to adapt and change the most if they were to find themselves in this new environment. And with that said, I present to you Hoennian Bunnelby. Hoennian Bunnelby is a pure poison type, which might seem like an interesting type to be put on a more mammalian Pokemon like Bunnelby, but there is a legitimately interesting reason why I chose this that I feel like could make for some awesome Pokemon if it was ever used as official inspiration. In Japan, and fairly close to the Kyushu region, which is what Hoenn is based on, is an island known as Rabbit Island, and it is known by this name because of the large amount of rabbits that inhabit the island. However, this island is also known for a more sinister purpose as well. And that purpose was that it was once the home of a poisonous gas factory that was in operation during World War II in order to produce poisonous gas that could be used by the Japanese during the war. These are both very interesting and distinct, yet juxtaposed traits of this island, which is why I thought it would make for a great Pokemon. And so basically, the concept with Hoennian Bunnelby is that Bunnelby were once released onto this island that sits close by the Hoenn region. However, there are toxins on this island for whatever reason, because I don't think we can use the poisonous gas thing in a Pokemon game, and the Bunnelby of the island eventually absorbed these toxins into their body and built up sort of a resistance to it, which changed their bodily form. I think that this one is pretty neat, if I'm being completely honest, and I feel like it gives a nice, fresh coat of paint to Bunnelby, who is a Pokemon that I feel like could use something to liven it up a little, so maybe something like this will happen for it someday. Next, we're gonna be moving to Sinnoh, and even though Sinnoh technically has already gotten its own regional variants in the form of the Hisuian Forms, I knew that if I left Sinnoh off of this list that people would probably mention it, so I figured what the heck, we'll go ahead and give Sinnoh a modern regional variant as well. And that is how I came up with the absolute goof that is Sinnohan Ice-Cube. I've mentioned it before on the channel, but personally I absolutely despise Eiscue as a Pokemon. However, since I needed to look to the newer non-Japanese regions for a Sinnoh regional variant, this is one that stood out to me that I felt like would work, and maybe would also make Eiscue just be a little less terrible. My inspiration for this one came from Eiscue's Pokédex entry, where it says that it floated into the Galar region from a frigid place. And since Sinnoh is known to be a frigid place, I thought it would be cool to introduce Eiscue as sort of an import, or an accidental import if you will, since it floated into Galar from Sinnoh. This Pokemon is already as derpy as they come, so covering even more of its body in ice and giving it the backstory that it just aimlessly and helplessly floated in the ocean until it made its way completely by chance to the Galar region, and then some of that ice melted off, leaving only a big ice cube frozen on its head and nothing else, is the kind of ridiculous backstory that I feel like could justify Eiscue's ridiculous design. It also becomes a water ice type instead of just pure ice in this stage because it is used to floating around in the ocean as an iceberg Pokemon. So basically this form was created in order to give Eiscue more of a backstory and a little bit more of a justification for why it is the way it is, and overall I think it does a solid job of giving Eiscue a little more charm, but you guys are going to have to let me know what you think about this ridiculous regional variant in the comments below. Now we're going to be moving on to Unova though, and since Unova is both a region that hasn't had any regional variants of its own to this point, and is also the first canonical non-Japanese region that is also known for being very isolated, we can basically pull any Pokemon from anywhere, which gives us a lot of possibilities for some cool regional variants. And after a lot of consideration, because there were a lot of really cool possibilities, I decided to go with Unovan Xatu. The reason why I went with Unovan Xatu is not only because of the far distance between the Japanese Johto region and the American Unova region, but also because Xatu is a Native American-inspired Pokemon. And similar to Sinnoh and Eiscue, I guess, I thought it would be cool to maybe put Xatu in more of a home region, if you will, where maybe this form of Xatu is the original, which we have seen officially in other regional variants like Galarian Zigzagoon. The basic concept with Unovan Xatu is that with Unova being its true home, it puts a little more emphasis on some of those Native American elements that it has in its original Johto design, and ultimately becomes a psychic ghost type. This references the inspiration for Xatu's name, which partially comes from Zot, which is a type of totem pole, which are also Native American in origin, that serves as a memorial to the dead. So basically, Unovan Xatu is just getting more in tune with its Native American roots and flesh out its own namesake a little more. Hence the ghost type, as well as all of the other aforementioned Native American-esque elements that have been a little more fleshed out as well. And finally, we come to the Kalos region, which is the most recent Pokemon region that does not have any regional variants of its own. And for the Kalos region, I have got something special, and that something special is none other than Kalosian Hoothoot. Now, admittedly, the connection to Kalos here as a France-based Pokemon region is a lot looser than some of the other regions we've covered in this video. It's kinda based on the snowy owl, which doesn't really inhabit France that much because it's mostly in the Arctic regions, but I figured, close enough. And the reason why I was willing to take a few more artistic liberties with this one is simply because the concept is just too good to pass up. And the concept here is that not only is Kalosian Hoothoot based on a snowy owl, but it's also simply just based on a snowball. Because Hoothoot is already a round Pokemon, and snowballs are round, so honestly, it's just a match made in heaven. And what makes this even more of a perfect match is that Hoothoot is already known for retracting its legs up into its body and only ever really having one out that you can see at any given time. In turn, this allowed Kalosian Hoothoot to be based on a snowball even more perfectly, as it not only retracts one leg into its body, but oftentimes retracts both of them, in order to more seamlessly blend into the snowy landscape where it lives in order to avoid predators, and from an artistic inspiration perspective, so it can even more closely and more heavily be inspired by an actual snowball. I have also just thought in general, for whatever reason, that the Ice type would be a perfect fit with both Hoothoot and Noctowl if they ever did get a regional variant, and so this is my attempt at that. Would you catch a Kalosian Hoothoot if it actually existed for real? And for that matter, would you actually use any of the other Pokemon we have featured as well? Be sure to let me know all of your thoughts about all these guys in the comments below, and any other ideas for other regional variants you might have as well. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe for more if you're new, both of those really help out, and with that said, as always, I will be back with another video very soon. Until then, thank you guys so much for watching this one, I really appreciate it, and I will smell you guys later.